I'm trying to make a loco for the field railway. Last week, with Will's help, I made the wheels and the chassis. Now to fit the engine. It's not very complicated, just sit it on the top and weld it down.
Okay.
All my projects are really simple and cheap, just like me.
Okay. Yeah. About there. Okay.
It needs to go a bit further that way, doesn't it?
Okay, something like that.
I've designed it like this so the engine shaft is directly above one of the axles. But that engine shaft is too short to be useful, so we lengthened it with some box section.
Maybe we should move the workshop all the way up there.
Good idea.
Just set it up there.
Are you serious? Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting it lined up was a bit tricky, and we didn't want to melt the bearing seals with the welder.
Lovely job. Well done.
I'll try and get a bit more weld on the other side and then squeeze those gaps.
It's not melting anything in there, is it?
Well, it might melt the seal a little bit.
So I tried to cool it down, but maybe I made things worse. Luckily, it looked okay at the end. So now I could put sprockets onto both and add a chain and it should work. Except the engine I've made only goes one way, so the loco would only go one way too. And contrary to many commenters, it's not simply a matter of starting it going in the opposite direction. You think I didn't try that? Of course, if only it was that simple. Yes, I could make some more valves and cams and eventually, probably, make the engine reversible. But that seems like a lot of work, so I thought I'd try something else first. Inspired by the Capstan wheel on Will's Land Rover, I thought I could do something similar. After all, he could drag my huge stationary engine with just a piece of rope wrapped around a pulley. So I made up my own pulleys. They slide onto the square shaft. The size difference is my estimation of the gearing I need. Then I wrapped some rope around them. Capstans work by friction. If you put enough turns on the pulleys, they'll never slip as long as the slack is taken up as you go along. And of course the knot would be replaced with a splice. This was just an experiment. I like the simplicity of this, especially when you can go into reverse just by turning one pulley around. In theory, at least. So, that was the basis of my entire transmission theory. A length of rope. Really cheap and simple, and I could avoid a gearbox and everything else. Yes, the driver would have to hop off and switch the pulley round whenever they wanted to go in a different direction, but I was thinking that you'd probably be getting off anyway to hitch something on or change the points, so that shouldn't be such a problem. You could even have different sized pulleys for different speeds, so I was disappointed when it didn't work. The rope always ended up falling off the pulley or running over itself and getting tangled up. I imagine these problems could be solved with better shaped pulleys and more guides for the rope, so I still think it might be worth pursuing, but in the meantime I moved on to a V-belt. These don't need wrapping round and round. With enough pressure and the right sort of pulley, it takes a lot to get a V-belt to slip, even when they're just wrapped around half the pulley. Of course they need to be tight, so I used a freewheeling pulley on a spring to keep the tension on. And again, one twist in the belt reverses the drive, in theory. A longer belt works better for grip because, of course, there was more contact with the pulleys. I found that twisting both pulleys meant more grip on both, and you get back to forward direction because the twists cancel each other out. In order to test this properly, I tied off the tension pulley, but really I'll need to be able to pull and release it easily. But a promising start, I think. I found a simple way to hinge a lever that could release and tension the belt, and that should give me a clutch, so I'll have neutral and forwards. This is just the cobbled together version, featuring a lever on a hinge to pull the tension wheel, with another lever on the other side for better access. Will pulling the lever put enough pressure on the belt to activate the drive? Yes, it worked. Sort of. Not exactly user-friendly yet, though. I decided I can improve traction with proper V-grooves in the top pulley. So I made them using lots of different sized discs stacked together. I love my plasma cutter. And sometimes the belt slipped out altogether, so I made a flared retainer disc for the bottom pulley, and that worked okay, but try as I might, I couldn't get the same belt to work for both forwards and backwards. That's because the tension wheel has to be on one side for forwards, but on the other side for backwards. Otherwise the belt just slips. So I ended up having to make double pulleys for the bottom too, with 2 belts and 2 tension wheels and 2 levers, one for forwards and one for backwards, with a neutral position when neither is under tension. It's all quite a palaver and quite slow and frustrating, but I think it's all working now, and at least it stayed costing very little, which is important. I took it back up to where the air hose is and up onto proper rails so it doesn't have to run on its flanges. And now look, it runs much smoother. I'm calling this forwards, but I'm not really sure why. Which is the front end of this contraption? Who knows? This is at very low speed. I'm sure it can go much faster, but I didn't want it to run off the rails at the end. But it really does seem to be working, which is a big relief. I want to change the levers so they're more comfortable to use, but that depends where the seat ends up. So I'll wait till that's sorted out first, and that should be in the next video, all going well. In the meantime, of course, I did manage to overrun the end of the rails, but with a bit more air, she hauled herself back up again, all on her own. Things are definitely coming together.